Welcome, everyone, to Staying Safe Online. I'm Eva Velasquez, President and CEO of the Identity Theft Resource Center, and I'm joined today by Hassan Ajaz, attorney with the Federal Trade Commission. This educational presentation is part of Identity Theft Awareness Week, an initiative of the Federal Trade Commission, and today we're going to discuss online safety practices that can lessen your risk of identity theft. Welcome, Hassan.
Hi, Eva. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be talking about this important topic with you.
I am too. So for the folks that don't know who we are, who the Identity Theft Resource Center is, let me just take a moment to introduce us. We're a national 501c3 charity organization. We're located in San Diego, California, but we provide assistance to anyone in the United States. And our mission is to empower and guide all stakeholders to minimize the risk and mitigate the impact of identity crimes and compromises. So how do we do that? We provide direct victim services through our contact center, and we can be reached through our toll-free number, live chat on our website, email, social media, direct messages, text to chat. I mean, we really, any way you want to engage with us, whatever manner you're most comfortable, please do so. And we also provide detection and prevention education and training, much like this webinar today. So all of the risk minimization tips that you're about to hear, they apply to all of your digital interactions and in fact, all of your different types of devices, your desktop, your laptop, your tablet, and even your phone. So just keep that in mind as we go through these online safety tips. I'm going to start with phishing. Now, I suspect everyone listening has heard of phishing, and it's nothing new, but boy, are they coming at us in full force right now. And just as a refresher, the definition is the fraudulent practice of sending electronic communication purporting to be from a reputable source in order to induce you to reveal personal information, passwords, credit card info, even your core identity credentials. Now, they can arrive as emails, texts, social media messages, and they can have links or even a file attachment. And again, it appears to come from someone that you know or a legitimate business. And while phishing attacks, they have different objectives, the attacker's primary goal is to steal your information needed to scam you or a business. And we encourage folks to take a zero trust approach, take a page out of the cybersecurity professional's book and apply this zero trust mentality. If you did not initiate the contact, remember, you don't actually know who is on the other end of that communication. Here are just a couple of real world examples that we've encountered. And I'm using Amazon accounts, not because Amazon is gets any more or any less than other large corporations. It's just because it's common and recognizable. You get an email from Amazon, the company, you may have a relationship with them and do business with them. So you might automatically think it's legitimate, again, because you know them, you recognize them. Now, some of these phishing emails are not that sophisticated and they're easier to spot, just like these examples that you're seeing on the screen. And this may sound really basic, but make sure to read the actual headers in the email and look at the return email address, the full return email address. Sometimes we're just on autopilot and we're in a hurry, but this step is really critical. And when you take a minute, you can easily see that those return email addresses, they're not actual Amazon.com email addresses. And of course, what are they asking you to do? To log into your account, confirm your identity. And that's also that they can capture your username and password. Sometimes they may even want you to open a document, and that document is likely going to be infected with malware. So when you get these types of phishing emails and you can tell that they're not legitimate, you don't have to do anything further. But I want to be very careful here. I don't want to give folks this sort of false sense of security, thinking that you can detect all phishing emails easily, because you can't. Some of these are so sophisticated, they're not easy to detect. And this is where that zero trust approach kind of comes in. The best rule of thumb here is not to engage directly if you did not initiate the communication. Don't reply to the email. Don't click on any links, and certainly don't provide your username and password. Go directly to the source. If you're an Amazon customer and you get this email, go directly to the Amazon website or the app if you have it in your phone and check the status of your account that way. It's highly, 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 highly likely that Amazon is not trying to get in touch with you. It's most likely phishing. And on to our next tip, upgrade your passwords. Look, the best practice is a unique password on each account. We are creatures of habit, and we like to reuse the same easy password across multiple accounts, but that really increases your risk. And if you're using the same login information, the same passwords at work and for personal accounts and devices, that creates even more, an additional risk. After all, if your username and password on one account are compromised in some way, and you use that across multiple accounts, now any account where you are using that password is vulnerable. And I know we have a lot of them to remember, and password managers can be a useful tool. Now, some people find they aren't intuitive or easy to use, and there is a fee involved. So that's something to consider. But we do want to mention that for some folks, this can be a useful tool to help you keep track of all those unique passwords. And it doesn't have to be nonsense, all that, just that gibberish. It can be a quote, a song lyric, a line of poetry, something that's memorable to you. Now, the reason this is important is there are programs out there that can run through every single word in the dictionary in less than a second. So using just a single short word is not a strong password. Please make sure it's 12 characters or longer, as that will make it much harder to crack. And next tip, multi-factor authentication. This is another layer in the authentication process. So this is where if you go to a website and you type in your username and your password, there's one more step that has to happen if you sign up for multi-factor authentication. And that is, you will get a code either emailed to you, texted to you, can sometimes even come in the form of a phone call. It's sent to your device. So this is one of those protection measures that may be mandatory at work and with some of your more sensitive accounts, but really you can use it for just about any account. It's widely available, but it's not always mandatory. For most places, it's an opt-in process. And I'm going to advise everyone that if it's available, sign up for multi-factor authentication. And if you don't know if it's available, ask, look at the FAQs on the account. Now, there are also authentication apps that are available. Those can have just a little bit of extra security. So if they're available, you can use them. And the last tip, please do not share that code with anyone. It says right on the message, do not share this code, but with all of the social engineering out there, sometimes people are talked into sharing it. And I can tell you right now, there's no legitimate reason for you to share that code with anyone else. It's only for you to use to log into your accounts. Digital wallets. We get a lot of folks asking, they're still a little leery. They've been great. They've enabled contactless payments during COVID, and they've definitely become more popular. But a lot of folks I talk to, they still don't know how to feel about it. And I just want to let people know, it's a secure process for making payments. When you put your credit card or your debit card into your digital wallet, it's stored in that device. So it stays in your phone. And when you go to pay, and you wave your phone over that point of sale machine, it's a token that is shared with that machine, not the actual credit card number. So even if that point of sale system is breached or compromised in some way, the token data, hey, that's one-time use data. So it doesn't create much of an opportunity for the thieves, and it doesn't create much risk for you. So when it comes down to the safety and the efficacy of a digital wallet, it's not about the actual wallet itself. It's more about how you manage that device. And speaking of devices, let's talk about device protection. The Find My Phone app, well, let me start with the PIN and the biometric lock. please add that to your device. If you haven't actually added that yet, it is really important. Some people find it inconvenient still, but you don't want someone to, if you leave your device somewhere, to actually have access to all of the data that's in there. And also enable the Find My Phone feature on your phone. It allows you to do a device reset so that if your phone is actually gone, I mean, really gone and not just in between the couch cushions or under the driver's seat of your car, you can wipe it clean. You can essentially turn it into a useless brick so that whoever has their hands on it can't use the data that's in the phone. And the next thing, please, applying software updates is so important and it's so easy. We just get busy and think, "Oh, I'll do that later." But these updates are patching known vulnerabilities in these systems. So once they're released, well, now the threat actors know about those vulnerabilities too, and really the race is on. So I encourage people, beat those threat actors in the foot race and apply those patches as soon as possible. You can celebrate Patch Tuesday every month by actually applying the patches and updates on all of your devices and downloading apps from trusted sources. Why is this important? Because apps can be infected with malware. A recent example was an app called Color Message that allowed users to personalize the color in their default text messages. It was downloaded by more than 500,000 people, and it turns out that it was infected with Joker malware. Now, the Joker malware did a couple of things, and that included subscribing these users to unwanted paid premium services, and it allowed those threat actors to access the contact lists in all of the devices where it was downloaded. So there is a reason to be very leery and download apps only from trusted sources. Okay, let's talk about peer-to-peer payment platforms. They are easy, convenient, and boy, they're widely used. I'm sure some of the folks listening use more than one of these platforms. And there are a few things to keep in mind. It's really best to only pay people that you know. I know that's not always possible. Maybe you're making a purchase online and you don't actually know the seller, but just realize that when you do pay someone that you don't know, you increase your risks because this is just like cash. It operates just like cash. Unlike a credit card or even a debit card, depending on where you bank, there are no legal requirements or mechanisms in place for you to dispute that charge or do a chargeback. Of course, you can and should report fraud to the platform, but that doesn't mean that you will get your money back. In fact, it's very, very unlikely that you will get your money back. And if you have incoming requests for payment, even if you know who it's from, it's someone in your personal network, but you weren't expecting that request, please confirm it using another platform. Scammers are known to take over accounts, and they will use these accounts and make requests to all of the people in that device and in that network. So you think it's coming from someone you know, and you just pay it. Maybe you get a request and it's your roommate or a buddy or a coworker, and it says something like $10 for lunch. And you think, oh, did I forget to pay Jim for lunch? And you just send it because they will purposefully keep the dollar amounts reasonable and low so that you don't think about it. But for them, it's about scale. It all adds up. They get 10, 20, 30 people a day to send them $10 or $20 a day. And at the end of the day, they're making a lot of money. And social media, I mean, we have an entire presentation on staying safe on social media. So this is a very high overview. And in addition to what's on the slide, I just really want people to remember how scammers are leveraging these accounts. And again, if you get a message from someone in your network asking you about grants or asking you for money, please reach out to the contact outside of the platform before you do anything. There's been a great deal of social media account takeover that we are hearing, and it's creating this sort of chain of victimization. So not only is the person whose account been taken over a victim, but then the scammers are leveraging all of their followers and all of the people in their network, saying, hey, I had this great investment, or can you donate to this charity? I mean, it's really broad in what the asks are, but at the end of the day, you're being asked to part with your money from someone you believe you know and trust, but it's actually a scammer that's taken over your friend's account. So when you reach out to that person that you know through another means, not a direct message within the account, but through another means, you may actually be alerting your friend that their account has been taken over. They aren't going to know that until they either, check and can't access their account, or someone tells them. Online shopping, I know the holiday season has passed, but online shop, we do it all year long, and it really has gained popularity, particularly due to the pandemic. So if you are shopping online, do your homework. If you are looking at using a retailer or downloading a shopping app for the first time, yeah, honestly, the best way to avoid being scammed is by only shopping at retailers or sites where you're already familiar with and that you trust. But if you want to try out a new retailer, do a quick check on them at some third-party organizations that can vouch for their reputation. Places like the Better Business Bureau, Yelp, even a quick Google search of the company name to see what comes up. You can even add complaints or scam into the search and check to see what other people's experience has been with the company. Also look and see, is there an actual customer service number or a brick and mortar address? How can you get in touch with them? Is the only way you can get in touch with them an online complaint form or an email? All these should factor into your decision. And don't rely on a professional looking or slick looking website or social media account. Those are so easy to develop. Even if there are a lot of followers, that can be easily manipulated. Check websites for the HTTPS and the padlock. And while this can be faked, if the website is missing those things, it means it's not secure, and you should avoid giving them any information, including your payment information. Use a credit card when possible. I know that isn't possible for everyone, but it really is the safest way to shop online. And if there's a problem with your order, and you can't get resolution directly from the retailer, you can go to your credit card issuer and file a dispute for the charge. Keep in mind that even though using a debit card feels like it's the same as a credit card, it's not. You don't have the same protections on a debit card that you do on a credit card. It really depends on the bank. So you should read the terms and conditions carefully, and don't overshare. No legitimate retailer needs your social security number. They don't need anything other than your contact information, shipping information, and payment information. So if you're asked for additional personal information, that is a big red flag. And here are just a few steps to get you started in incorporating this into your daily life, practicing cyber hygiene. Take 5, think before you respond, before you complete a transaction or even create a post. Sometimes just taking 5 minutes to think about what you're doing will kind of bring you out of the frenzy and give you some clarity, because it's taking you out of the moment. Start small. You don't have to do everything or remember everything. Start with a few things like changing an old and simple password on one of your critical accounts, or even freezing your credit. Freezing your credit and even your children's credit, it's free, but it's not being widely adopted. Even folks that know about it sometimes think it's too cumbersome or it's too tedious, and it's not. It's really not. The ability to do this is mandated by law, and the website annualcreditreport.com is the best place for you to get started. And lastly, second to last, build lifelong habits. Just like all of the things that we do regularly, brushing our teeth, combing our hair, good cyber hygiene can become a habit and then just become second nature. And now, lastly, there's no shame in asking for help. We all can't know everything about everything. This is such a dynamic space. New fraud and identity crimes and schemes are constantly emerging. Don't be embarrassed. regardless of your level of expertise, to ask questions or ask for help. And with that, I will hand it off to Hassan and let him take it from there.
Thank you, Eva. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to discuss with you some of the FTC's work to help people avoid and recover from identity theft. Before I begin, I want to thank and acknowledge Kelly Slaughter, who is the FTC's program manager for ID theft. She coordinates the FTC's ID theft program and put together this presentation. Also, I'll note that none of my statements necessarily represent the position of the commission or any commissioner. Now, you discussed lots of great tips, but unfortunately, even following those steps is not a guarantee of avoiding ID theft. And dealing with the consequences of ID theft and remediating it can be very stressful and cost time and money. So the FTC has developed a set of tools to help. The website identitytheft.gov is the cornerstone of those resources. It has taken in more than 4.3 million reports of identity theft since its inception in 2016. Together, the divisions of Consumer and Business Education, Consumer Response and Operations, and Privacy and Identity Protection created the site in response to an executive order from President Obama. So the FTC collects complaints and reports of fraud from the public, and our data shows that identity theft is a big and consistent problem. In 2021, the FTC received 1.3 million reports of identity theft, which is on track with the nearly 1.4 million reports from 2020. So this is a significant problem, and it comes from a wide variety of sources. As you'll see on this slide, which describes the distribution of different types of identity theft fraud. This is a fairly typical year with respect to the distribution of reports. You'll see that credit card fraud is in the top position at 25% of the reports, and government benefits fraud is second at 17%. Government benefits fraud can be things related to, most commonly in the public's knowledge, unemployment fraud. And in fact, in 2020, government benefits fraud had spiked to 25%. This was driven significantly by imposters filing false unemployment benefits claims using stolen identities. It peaked in 2020, and as you can see from this, had dropped to 17% in the following year, as scammers set their sights on billions of dollars in federal funds meant to help people in financial distress. What this tells us, along with the previous slide, is that the volume of ID theft is consistently large, but the specific type of ID theft changes from year to year as scammers respond to different environments in the overall economy. An even more interesting picture emerges when we look at the reports broken down by age. You can see here that identity theft is universal. It's unfortunate, but that is the reality. It affects each generation differently. You can see it broken down by decades and how different decades have a different distribution of what type of identity theft they're targeted. Now, oftentimes in public discourse, we'll hear the narrative that older adults are kind of in a special target for fraud and identity theft. And while it is true they are targeted, you can see here that folks of all ages are affected, not just older people. And our outreach efforts are designed with that fact in mind. We want to reach people across the age differences to help empower them to spot, avoid, and report identity theft. So, as I mentioned earlier, identitytheft.gov was designed to change the way people report and recover from identity theft. This is an interactive site and based on the idea that recovering from identity theft is easier when you have a plan. And that's what identitytheft.gov does in a nutshell. It gives people a plan with step-by-step guidance to recover from identity theft. And it's easy for people to report and to use the website. Start by clicking Get Started. Follow the prompts to enter details on how the identity was stolen or misused. The site uses the information that users submit to create customized tools that each person can use to recover. The website is available in both English and Spanish and is the government's one-stop shop with recovery plans for more than 30 different types of identity theft. When people turn to identitytheft.gov for help, their individual recovery plan streamlines what was a confusing, complex process. Now, it's still work, but having a playbook will help people guide them through that oftentimes confusing process. The website also streamlines the reporting process in another important way. Because of a joint initiative between the FTC and the IRS, people can use identitytheft.gov to report tax identity theft directly to the IRS. In fact, it's the only way for people to file an IRS identity theft affidavit online. More importantly, it speeds the process for the IRS to start resolving tax identity theft cases. Identitytheft.gov also gives people another important piece of their recovery plan, an identity theft report. People can use it instead of a police report, and in most cases can send it to credit bureaus to prove identity theft. These reports are also made available to law enforcement nationwide through the Consumer Sentinel network. Sorry, we skipped a slide going back. So even after someone has their identity theft report, the site still has more to offer. People can create an account to track their progress navigating through recovery. Their personalized recovery plan comes with a checklist and follow-up reminders, as well as pre-filled letters and forms they'll need to file. We encourage anyone who gets a free account to keep checking back to use all available resources, including updating their report with new information as they uncover it. Since its launch, people have created more than 2.9 million identitytheft.gov accounts, which accounts for about 67 of all reports. And finally, one of the great strengths of the FTC's identity theft program is a network of partnerships we've built, like with the ITRC. We've partnered with law enforcement, legal services organizations, and other community-based organizations to get the word out, drive reporting, and resolve problems that have come up. For example, as reports of ID theft related to unemployment benefits rose, we partnered with the Department of Labor. Together, we evaluated the trend, developed and distributed consumer education, and established a recovery process to address the growing concern. In addition, the identity theft team, with important input from the Division of Financial Practices at the FTC, also partnered with the Small Business Administration to create and distribute guidance for small business owners. In this case, that guidance was related to scams around the Paycheck Protection Program and other SBA pandemic-related loans. And we also leverage partnerships with large and small community-based organizations, such as AARP and your organization, the Identity Theft Resource Center. These kinds of organizations help us get the word out about identity theft and guide people to identitytheft.gov when it's needed. In fact, both AARP and ITRC are partners in Identity Theft Awareness Week, which runs this week from January 31st to February 4th. We'll be holding a series of events to discuss how to spot, avoid, and recover from identity theft. And we hope everyone watching this will join the FTC for this year's Identity Theft Awareness Week, with events including more webinars, podcasts, and Twitter chats. You can find the full listing and more ways to join in at ftc.gov/ID Theft Week. We hope these resources are helpful, and I want to thank Eva and the ITRC for this opportunity to speak on this important topic.
Well, thank you, Hassan, and thank you everyone for listening. If you have any questions or need additional help, remember you can contact the ITRC by visiting our website at idtheftcenter.org. And of course, you can contact the FTC by visiting identitytheft.gov. And I really do encourage you folks to check out the week's events. You can see the link here on the slide, and stay safe, everyone.